Chapter 289, Conjecture and Investigation. Audrey, who thought she knew the truth, couldn't help but imagine the scene described by Viscount Glaint. Lanavis lying in the mud in the darkness, covered with rows and rows of tarot cards. There's the Fool, Justice, the Hanged Man, the Sun, the World, and the other major arcana cards and numerous numbered cards. They would either be overturned or facing right up, and there would be some left unturned, exposing only their backs as if they were all part of a large-scale, eerie tarot divination. This kind of scene must be very shocking. I wonder where the card for justice landed. How would the Beyonders of MI9 and the Church view this matter? Would they believe that a new secret organization has appeared? By possessing the godhood of the true creator, the ploy between Lanavis and the Aurora Order must definitely be significant. It definitely would have brought a terrible disaster to Backland and the kingdom. Yet, this ploy was so easily foiled because of a simple mission Mr. Fool Hatasude, the Sissa tussle at the level of deities. Mr. Fool and the true creator are considered archenemies? It's no wonder he calls the other party the fallen creator. Many thoughts flashed through Audrey's mind as her body trembled faintly and imperceptibly. What are you thinking about? Viscount Glaint, who was sitting opposite, finally couldn't hold it in any further as he asked in puzzlement. Audrey abruptly snapped out of her reverie. Slightly cocking her head, she smiled and said, "Didn't you tell me to imagine the scene of the corpse being covered with tarot cards?" "Ha!" Glaint awkwardly smiled and sighed. "I wonder which secret organization's member killed Lanavis. It really matches how I imagine such things to be like. It's so cool. It's their tarot club." Audrey answered silently as she smiled. Perhaps there's no organization, but the independent act of a powerful Beyonder. Regardless, I like this style. Urge Jaw and Furs and ask them when they can find my apothecary formula, Glaint said in excitement. Audrey widened her eyes slightly. Looking around her, she lowered her voice and said, "Hush, keep it down. How can you talk about potions here?" Glaint gave an indifferent smile. "Don't worry, it's nothing. I had already confirmed that other than you and me, there's only a dog. The huge golden retriever." Susie unconsciously shifted her position. Northborough in Backland, inside a room beneath the St. Samuel Cathedral. Daly, who was wearing a black hooded robe and makeup with blue eyeshadow and red blush, gave off a charming yet cold feeling. She randomly found a seat and picked up the document on the table. She swept through it before her gaze suddenly froze. Her brows immediately furrowed, and she suppressed something as she asked, "Lanavis? Why wasn't I informed of this matter? Why didn't you inform me about the operation last night?" Sitting at the seat of honor, Crested Sesamir, who had hidden his chin and lips back into his propped-up collar, said deeply, "I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to control your emotions. That would have brought unnecessary danger to the operation, so I didn't get anyone to inform you. I can understand how you feel." A Nighthawk from the Tingen Squad is currently undergoing guidance and training at the Holy Cathedral. He plans on joining the Red Gloves, and his performance is about equal to yours. But as a person in charge of the operation, and as a high-ranking deacon of the Nighthawks, I had to eliminate all unstable elements. Daly looked at the other Nighthawk squad captains and deacons, and she sneered. "Why do you think I won't be able to control my own emotions? I'm very calm, and I won't act rashly. My anger will only erupt after Lanavis is caught. This is the professional bearing of a veteran Nighthawk and a deacon. If I had caught Lanavis, I would let him know that men can be weak too. I would make sure that a cold, rotten, yet stiff corpse would be situated behind his buttocks. I would make sure that a pungent white bone filled with thorns would be situated in front of him. I'd make it so that those cold little fellows enter and leave his body wherever they can. Damn it, you actually managed to let him die just like that." Crested Sesamir looked at Daly calmly and sighed after silently listening to her until she was done. How long have you been putting up with it? Daly froze, then muttered in frustration, like a deflated ball, for a very long time. Sesamir retracted his gaze and cast them towards the other deacons and captains. Katanathing, former preliminary investigations, the person who killed Lanavis, is a member of the Secret Order, a Sequence 8 of the potion name, Clown. Has adept at using paper cards as flying knives. A deacon reported based on the findings. However, we are unable to confirm this guess. The tarot cards scattered across the corpse don't seem like they were concealing something. After all, the Beyonder didn't deal with the cards on the wall and in Lanavis' head. We all believe the final scene was more of a ritual or a symbolism. Therefore, we suspect that the Beyonder might belong to an organization we don't understand. Of course, the scene might also just be a personal preference of his. Sesamir nodded slightly and said, "We can start from that point and proceed with a follow-up investigation. Ire, any updates on the person who tipped us off?" The charming middle-aged man, Ire Harson, flipped the papers in his hand and said, "We investigated the person and discovered that his actions were directed by a bounty hunter. In the process of looking for the wanted criminal, Lanavis, the Balam's companion, was killed by a member of the Aurora Order. In order to exact revenge, she secretly carried out an investigation and eventually locked onto the target at the Workers' Alliance Tavern in East Balam Dock. Based on the target's actions and lifestyle, she discovered Lanavis. Her actions have basically been verified by witnesses. There isn't anything strange about it. We also use Beyonder means to confirm that she has no connection with the person who killed Lanavis. She's in hiding now, and it's very hard to find her." Sesamir added while seemingly in thought, "This fits very well with Lanavis' description, that the radical and insane members of the Aurora Order were helping him out. Is there any problem with the reporter who did the interview at the Union that afternoon?" Another captain of the Nighthawks reported he was a fake reporter, and according to news from the police department, has actually a private detective who had previously helped Mike Joseph of the Daily Observer. Joseph was investigating the murder of Cyber. We suspect that he got some kind of lead, found the Dock Union, and disguised himself to get in touch with everyone who was suspected of being the killer. This guess has already been confirmed by Isengard Stanton. Sesamir acknowledged it before switching to ask about other people who had recently come into contact with Lanavis, but similarly got answers that there was nothing wrong with them. Towards the end, he said after some deliberation, "I'm very confused by the lack of motive for the murder of Lanavis. That mysterious murderer deserves our attention. You should continue to follow up on this matter. In addition, according to common sense, the Aurora Order definitely wouldn't only have Beyonders at the Rose Bishop and Shadow Ascetic level in a big city like Backland. There should at least be an oracle, or perhaps even a saint. Their ploy of receiving the true creator's descent has failed. With their crazy and irrational traits, I'm worried that they'll launch a series of retaliatory acts. All of you are to be on high alert in the near future. They'll also be staying in Backland." "Yes, Your Grace," the deacons and captains replied solemnly. Crested Sesamir paused for a few seconds before adding, "The events of the Megas incident in Tingen and last night's incident with Lanavis have revealed a problem. The industrial area, the dock area, and East Borough have become hotbeds for the descent and nurturing of evil gods. You are to send people to investigate and gather the truth about the situation. If it truly is as Lanavis had described, it'll raise this matter at the Council of Cardinals, formally exerting pressure on the kingdom and the government to bring about the corresponding changes as soon as possible." Klein slept in and didn't wake up until it was late. However, it still wasn't bright enough outside. The area was still shrouded in fog, making it dark and cold. This doesn't fit with my splendid mood, he grumbled. After changing his clothes and taking his key, he returned to Minsk Street unnoticed. After changing from his worker's uniform to casual haumatiere shirt and sweater, and after confirming that no one came investigating his identity as a private detective, he was completely at ease. He leisurely went out to the butcher and grocery store to buy food in preparation for a sumptuous lunch for himself. There was some afternoon sun in Backlund, and Klein lazily basked in its warmth, momentarily having no desire to do anything. He waited until 15 minutes to 3. Then he took out his golden pocket watch for a glance, before returning to the bedroom and going above the gray fog. After conjuring the fake world and familiarizing himself with its controls, he sat down on the high back chair at one end of the table and gave a message to the sun that he was to prepare for his participation in the gathering. At precisely 3, according to Backlund time, streaks of crimson light soared out of the vast and ancient palace, outlining blurry figures which were equally indistinct. Audrey directly looked towards the seat of honor and said cheerfully, "Good afternoon, Mr. Fool. The simple mission you entrusted has been completed." She had deliberately emphasized the word simple in order to ascertain from Mr. Fool whether Lanovis had really been eliminated by his adorer. She wanted to know if the tarot card-covered death scene was a symbol of the tarot club. Klein deliberately acted composed as he said with a smile, "I'm already aware." After saying that, he sighed. In such an age, in such a place like Backlund, in such a place in the East Borough, the dock area, and the factory district, they're the hotbeds for an evil god's descent. What? Alger was stunned for a moment, wondering if there was something wrong with his ears. Why would a simple mission involve hotbeds for an evil god's descent?